Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of our music theory studies, and I just want to say, if you haven't seen the last video, which I think was number 22 if I'm right in saying, then you'll be completely lost, and definitely you need to understand the notes. If you haven't seen video 7, then I would go to my channel, find that, and you've got to understand the sequence of notes. If you don't know those two things, this is not going to make any sense. Now, before we get into the theory, you remember we've been studying where each individual note is on all the different strings. We looked at where all the G notes were last time. This is also going to be very useful. It's very important for you to understand where the notes are, especially once we come to playing scales, which we're not far away from. So before we get into the theory today, we'll have a look at where the D notes are. I think we've done nearly all the notes now. I think F and probably B are the two ones we haven't done. We'll have a look at the D notes, so get a close up and show you how to do that. Okay, so if you've been following the course sequentially, lesson by lesson, which is how it's designed, it is a course, and I would highly suggest that you do that, but you'll understand that when we learn in an individual note, we are not allowed to play an open string, and we're not allowed to play above the 12th fret, which is the same note as the open string but an octave higher. So we have to find a D note somewhere between the open and the 12th fret, and then we have to find it on each string. So again, if you've been following the course, you'll understand that the bass note is an E, and therefore at the 12th fret it's also an E. So rather than count all the way up, I happen to know that D is the letter of the alphabet before E. So rather than go E, F, G, A, B, C, I'm just going to start at E and go down 2 steps, and that's my D. Again, 2 steps between every note, every natural, that is the A, B, C, D, E, F and G notes. 1 between E and F, 1 between B and C, all the rest are 2. So F to G is 2, G to A to B, 1 to C, 2 to D, 2 to E. So here we go, 10th fret, that's your D note on your bass string. Now when we come to the 5th string, well, the way I think of it is, we can just figure it out. You say A, B, C and D. But I always think, where would I put my finger on the 5th string if I wanted to tune by ear? I wanted my 4th string D note, I would find it at the 5th fret of the 5th string. The 4th string is D. We're not allowed to play open, so we'd have to play at the 12th fret. That's our D. On the 3rd string, you need to work it out. It's at the 7th fret, but you can say G, A, 2 to A, 2 to B, 1 to C, D. So now we've worked it out, 7th fret. On the 2nd string, it's actually quite easy to remember where, if you're holding down a D chord, then this finger on the 2nd string is actually the D note, it's the 3rd fret, or you could figure it out, B, 1 to C, 2 to D, 3rd fret, and on the top string, same as the bass string, it's the 10th fret. So we go all the way up there, and then we go back down again, and we play it and say it. This is how we program this in. It's kind of a muscle memory kind of thing. D, 10th fret, D, 3rd fret, D, 7th fret, D, 12th fret, D, 5th fret, D, 10th fret, same as the top string. And we've got to go up and down 3 times, remember? Go up and down 3 times, saying D, 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 D. When you get to the top, play it again, go back down, D, D, play it and say it, remember, D, D, so D and D. And if we can go up and down 3 times, then without making a mistake, then that's kind of going to program itself in, as it were. If not, then just try again. It takes a while. And then we've got the D notes. tick that off. Okay, so let's get into this now. Yeah, I know some of you don't want to learn this. I should have said you don't want to go over the same old ground. Some people will be familiar with all that. It's fine. The timings on all the videos are always in the description below. Just click more, you'll see the timing, and you can skip to the bit you want. So if you come back to this video, you don't need this bit. You want to get straight to the music theory, just go and look at the timings and just scroll forward through the video to where that is. And just say that for those people who don't know. Okay, let's get on to the theory part. Now, a quick recap, at least I hope it's a recap. I hope you're already familiar with this. But remember that out of the 12 possible notes, we take 7 of them to make what's called a diatonic major scale, and everything is based on that. Each of the 12 possible scales takes its name from whichever of the 12 notes it starts on. So if I was to play G, and now to play my intervals, which is 2 frets, 2 frets, 1 fret, 2 frets, 2 frets, 2 frets. And if I really want to finish it off, I can go back to the same note I started on, an octave higher. Those intervals are the same on every scale. So that was a G major scale. If I started at D, it would be a D major scale, but the intervals would be the same. 2 frets, 2 frets, 1 fret, 2, 2, 2, and then 1 would take me back to the note I started from. So what we're going to do is start by looking at the major scale starting at C. Now there isn't an open C on the guitar fretboard, but I could start at C, which is the first fret of the B string, B, C. And I could do my 2 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 1. And I can figure out which notes I actually landed on. So I started on a C. Well, 2 notes up from C is D, 2 notes up is E, 1 note is F, 2 notes are G, 2 notes are A, 2 notes are B, and 1 more note back to C again, but an octave higher. So this is why when we do music theory, we normally teach in C. I've said this before, because you don't happen to land on any sharps and flats. If you start anywhere else and use those intervals, you'll always land on sharps and flats. It just makes it a little bit easier to understand. And there's one more thing we need to discuss before we start looking at the diagrams, and that's about terminology. And in England, certainly, maybe other countries too, if you go up 2 frets, that's known as a tone, a semitone, a tone, a tone, a tone, and a semitone. So one fret would be, each fret would be a semitone. If you go up 2 frets, it's known as a tone. Now in America, and possibly again other countries too, I know that they have a different terminology. They talk about whole steps and half steps. So a whole step would be 2 frets, whole step, half step, 1 fret, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Okay, so I've just printed out a sort of summary of what we've been saying there, in case you want to take a screenshot or maybe pause the video and just read through it without me rambling on in the background. But we'll have a close-up look at the bottom part of that, as to how the C major scale is actually constructed. All right, now looking at the top line here, you'll see the root note R stands for root note. That's where we start the scale, in this case C. We've got +2 +2 +1 +2 +2 +2 +1. So the intervals would be tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 and then a semitone back to the octave. Or if we talking in steps, it would be root, whole step, half step, whole step, and whole step, and then a half step back to the octave. Now look at the second line down and you'll see where we actually land. We land on the C, we jump over the C sharp to the D, we jump over the E flat to the E, and then one step E is E to F. We jump over the F sharp and land on the G, jump over the A flat, land on the A, jump over the B flat, land on the B, and back to the C again. So as it happens, we don't land on any of those sharps and flats, just the way the scale works out. So if you look at the third line down, you see the notes we actually land on are C, plus 2 is D, plus 2 is E, plus 1 is F, plus 2 is G, plus 2 is A, plus 2 is B, and then plus 1 is back to C again. Now we give all those notes numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 is really the same as 1, so it's just the 7 different numbers, and that's important because when we come to work out what chords are in the key of C, each of those notes is the root note of a chord in that key. So we could say the 5 chord in the key of C is G, and that's because the 5th note in the scale is G. And we can apply the same principle therefore to any key. So that way we don't have to talk to other musicians in terms of we want to play a C, an F and a G. We can just say we want to play the 1 chord, 4 chord and 5 chord. Then if someone wants to play that in a different key, they want to play it in the key of G, they can just find out what the 1 chord, 4 chord and 5 chord is in that key. And the song's still going to work, just in a higher and lower pitch, basically. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's just stick to the key of C for now. All right, well, this is our main diagram for today. Now, having written those 7 notes out vertically, so that's in the yellow column there, C, D, E, F, G, A and B, we're now going to build a chord on each one of those notes, and those 7 chords will be collectively called the key of C. So the C major scale also shows which chords are in the key, which notes we need to make each chord, but first we need to write out the C major scale horizontally as well. So if we start at the top line there and we just write the notes across C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C, observing where the whole steps and half steps or tones and semitones are, semitone a half step between E and F, semitone a half step between B and C, all the rest are whole steps. To construct a C major chord, which is the 1 chord in this key, they'll see the numbers down the side there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we simply take the root, that's the 1st note in the scale, plus the 3rd note in the scale and the 5th note in the scale. So C is the 1st note, D, E is the 3rd note, and then F, G is the 5th note. Those are technically known as the root. The major third, I'll come to why it's a major or a minor third in a moment, and the perfect 5th, that's the proper names. And if you play those 3 notes together, then they are collectively known as a C chord. Now, if we look at the 4 chord in this key, so that's F, and the 5 chord, so that's G, and we look across there, we'll see again root F, there's a major third, the 3rd note F, G, A, and the 5th note B, C, so that has a root, a major third and a perfect 5th, and the 5 chord, which is G, we go G, 2nd note A, 3rd note B, so G, B, 4th note C, 5th note D, so G, B and D, that gives us a G chord, and F, A and C, that gives us an F chord, and they're all constructed in the same way as the C chord. So it's a major, a C major, an F major and a G major. Now let's look at the 2 chord, the 3 chord and the 6 chord in this key. Now you'll see that obviously they all have a root note, and you'll see they have a perfect 5th, but the 3rd is different, and this is because they are minor chords, and the difference between a major and a minor chord is just that 1 note. It has a minor third rather than a major third. Now we can see what the difference is if we have a close look at the way the C chord is constructed, and we'll notice that the 3rd note in the scale from C, C, D, E, we've got it marked as a major third, but look at how many semitones. It would be C, C sharp, D, E flat and E. So 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones from the root note C to the major third of E, or 4 half steps if you want to look at it that way. Now if we look at the D chord, and this is a D minor chord, we'll see the third note in the scale starting from D is D, E, F. That's the third note, and it's only 1, 2, 3 semitones or 3 half steps from the root note. So that's what makes it a minor chord, and that's what makes it a minor third. It's either 4 semitones or 4 half steps from the root note, and it's a major third, or it's 3 semitones or 3 half steps from the root note, and it's a minor third. And that applies to all minor chords. In this case, D, E and A are all minor chords. And let me show you that on the guitar. Okay, so I hope you can see this all right, but let's have a look at the A minor chord. Now, you might have noticed that the A minor chord is an A, a C and an E. A is the root note, obviously, and when we put the A minor on, that's the open 5th string, and this third string, fret at the 2nd fret. Those are our A notes. The 5th, the perfect 5th, is E, and that's to be found at the 2nd fret of the 4th string and on the open top string. So there are 2 A's and 2 E's, but the third in the A minor chord is this note here. It's the C note on the 2nd string. So that gives us our A minor chord. It's A, E, A, C and E again. Now if we were to raise that third, that C, up to a C sharp, we would get an A major chord. If we were to drop it back down to C, we get an A minor chord. And that's the only difference. They both have an A root note, they both have an E perfect 5th, but the difference is the third is 1 semitone or 1 half step lower. If it's major, it's C sharp. If it's A minor, it's C. That's the only difference. That's what makes a major chord or a minor chord, that major or minor third. Now finally we have the 7 chord, which has a root note B, it has a minor third D, and it has a flattened 5th. It's the only chord in the key that doesn't have a perfect 5th, and it's known as a diminished chord. In this case it's B diminished. But it's a bit of a strange beast, and we missed it out when we were learning. We'll do diminished chords and augmented chords all together later on, but it sounds a bit like sort of strange, as you expect Boris Karloff to appear with a bolt through his neck at any moment. But we'll leave that on one side. But it's a minor third, flattened 5th, and it's known as a diminished chord. There's one in every key, unfortunately. Notice as well what we said, everything about the key of C is governed by these 7 notes, and you notice that the notes that comprise each chord, again there's no sharps and flats in any of the chords. C is C, E and G, D minor is D, F and A, E minor is E, B and G, F is F, A and C, the G chord is G, B and D, and even if we played it as a G7th, we would just add an F, so again it's not a sharp or a flat note. The A minor is A, C and E, and even the B diminished, the weird and wonderful chord, is B, D and F. So again, all the notes in all the chords are what you call naturals, and they're not incidentals. They don't we don't land on any sharps or any flats in any way, shape or form in the key of C. Now some songs will steal chords from other keys, but that's another story. Most Western music will use the 6 main chords in any key. The diminished chords not that common. Or they'll use some of them. A few will just use the 1 and 5 chords. I'm thinking of a country song by John Williams called Tulsa Time. It just uses C and G or G7 right through the whole song. It sounds like there's a lot more chords, but it's actually only 2. All blues songs, most country songs, and a lot of basic rock songs will use the 1, 4 and 5 chords. So in this key it would be C, an F and a G, not necessarily in that order. And if it's a ballad, they'll quite often add a minor. Will usually be A minor. So again, it doesn't have to be in that order. Could be the C, G, the A minor, and then the F. And occasionally people will use the D minor, or that's the 2 or 3 chords, or the E minor. It's a very nice change, I think. Van Morrison uses this a lot. And I was thinking of Kings of Leon used somebody just basically C. That's mainly the most part of the song. So, however, there are variations on these basic chords that give the songs a bit more variety, give you a bit more tonal colour. We'll look at some of the most popular ones next time, which are known as major 7ths, minor 7ths, dominant 7ths, suspended 4ths, suspended 2nds, add 9s. And we'll have a look at those next time. We're going to leave it there for today. That's a lot to take in. Go over it, figure out the diagrams, go through it a step at a time. You'll see the pattern there, the penny will drop. Okay guys, have fun. See you later. Bye.